The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution is a source of constant debate. It has been the subject of countless discussions, legal battles, and public forums, making it one of the most contentious issues in American history. It is one of the most talked about parts of the Bill of Rights. The language of the amendment is often scrutinized and interpreted in various ways by different groups. People have very different ideas about what it means. Some see it as a fundamental right to personal protection, while others view it as a relic of a bygone era. To understand the Second Amendment, we need to look at its history. This involves delving into the period when it was written and the intentions of those who drafted it. We also need to look at how courts have interpreted it over time. Judicial rulings have played a significant role in shaping the current understanding of the amendment. The Second Amendment is about the right to bear arms. This phrase has been the focal point of many legal and political arguments. It was written in a time when America was a new country. The young nation was still finding its footing and establishing its identity. The Founding Fathers wanted to make sure the government didn't have too much power. They believed that an armed populace was a safeguard against tyranny. They remembered what it was like to be ruled by England. The experience of living under British rule heavily influenced their thinking. Today, the Second Amendment is still important. It continues to be a central issue in discussions about individual rights and public safety. It affects laws about guns all over the country. Different states have different regulations, leading to a patchwork of laws that reflect varying interpretations of the amendment. People argue about how it should be applied in modern society. The debate often centers around issues of public safety, individual freedom, and the role of government. This essay will explore the Second Amendment's history and its relevance today. We will examine the original context and how its interpretation has evolved over time. Understanding the Second Amendment is not easy. It requires a deep dive into historical documents, legal texts, and the socio-political climate of both the past and present. It is important to look at the words themselves. The exact phrasing can offer clues about the intentions of the drafters. But it is also important to look at the context in which they were written. The historical and cultural backdrop provides essential insights. This means thinking about the time period and what the Founding Fathers were trying to achieve. Their experiences and aspirations shaped the amendment in ways that continue to resonate today. To understand the Second Amendment, we need to delve into the historical context of its creation. We need to go back to the 1700s, a time when America was still a collection of colonies under British rule. The Founding Fathers had just fought a grueling war for independence from Great Britain, a war that was fueled by their desire for freedom and self-governance. They were very concerned about the potential for tyranny, having experienced firsthand the oppressive rule of the British monarchy. They had seen how a powerful government could abuse its citizens, imposing unfair laws and taxes without representation. One of their major concerns was the role of a standing army, which they believed could be used to enforce tyranny. The Founding Fathers believed a standing army was a threat to liberty, as it could be used by a tyrannical government to suppress the people. They preferred the idea of a citizen militia, a group of ordinary citizens who could be called upon to defend their communities and their freedoms. A militia is a group of ordinary citizens who are trained to fight, ready to take up arms in defense of their homes and their country. They are not professional soldiers, but rather everyday people who have a stake in the protection of their liberties. The Second Amendment was written to ensure the existence of a well-regulated militia, which the Founding Fathers saw as essential to the security of a free state. The Founding Fathers believed this was necessary to secure a free state, a nation where the government would be held in check by its citizens. They also wanted to make sure that individuals had the right to defend themselves, their families, and their property from any threats. The Second Amendment was influenced by earlier documents like the English Bill of Rights of 1689, which recognized the right of Protestants to have arms for their own defense. The English Bill of Rights recognized the right of Protestants to have arms for their own defense, a principle that resonated with the American founders. This was a response to the attempts by King James II to disarm Protestants, an act that was seen as a way to control and oppress them. The Founding Fathers were inspired by this idea of linking the right to bear arms with the preservation of liberty, believing that an armed populace was a safeguard against tyranny. The phrase, well-regulated militia, is key to understanding the Second Amendment. Today, the word regulated often makes us think of government control. However, in the 18th century, it had a different meaning. Back then, well-regulated meant something closer to well-trained or well-functioning. It referred to the militia's ability to operate effectively as a fighting force. It did not necessarily imply extensive government oversight or restrictions. The Founding Fathers believed that a well-regulated militia was essential for a free state. They saw it as a safeguard against both external threats and potential government tyranny. A militia made up of ordinary citizens, they believed, would be less likely to be used to oppress the people. The concept of a militia has also changed over time. In the 18th century, it referred to a body of citizens capable of being called upon for military service in times of need. It was distinct from a standing army, which was comprised of professional soldiers. Today, the United States has both a standing army and a National Guard, which can be considered a modern-day militia. Another important phrase in the Second Amendment is the right of the people. This phrase has sparked significant debate and controversy over the years, leading to various interpretations and legal battles. This phrase has been the subject of much debate. Legal scholars, historians, and politicians have all weighed in, offering differing perspectives on its true meaning and implications. Does it refer to a collective right of the people to form a militia? This interpretation suggests that the primary purpose of the Second Amendment was to ensure that states could maintain armed forces for their defense. Or does it protect an individual right to keep and bear arms? This view posits that the amendment guarantees personal firearm ownership for self-defense and other lawful purposes. Historically, there is evidence to support both interpretations. Early American writings and legal documents provide arguments for both the collective and individual rights perspectives. Some scholars argue that the amendment was primarily intended to protect the collective right of states to maintain militias. They point to the historical context of the time, when the fear of a standing army was prevalent. Others point to the fact that the phrase "the right of the people" is also used elsewhere in the Bill of Rights to protect individual rights. This suggests a broader interpretation that includes personal freedoms. For much of American history, the Second Amendment was not at the forefront of legal debate. It was often overshadowed by other constitutional issues and received relatively little attention from the courts. This began to change in the late 20th century. As gun ownership became a more politically charged issue, the courts were increasingly asked to weigh in on the meaning of the Second Amendment. As gun ownership became a more politically charged issue, the courts were increasingly asked to weigh in on the meaning of the Second Amendment. High-profile cases and shifting public opinion brought the amendment into the spotlight. The debate over the Second Amendment is not just about history. It is a living issue that affects contemporary society and influences current legal and political landscapes. It is about how we interpret the Constitution in the 21st century. The ongoing discussions and legal battles shape our understanding of constitutional rights in modern times. It is about balancing individual rights with concerns about public safety. The challenge lies in finding a middle ground that respects personal freedoms while addressing societal needs. This debate is likely to continue for many years to come. As society evolves, so too will the interpretations and implications of the Second Amendment, ensuring that this issue remains a central topic of American discourse. In 2008, the Supreme Court made a landmark decision in District of Columbia v. Heller. This case was pivotal because it affirmed an individual's right to possess a firearm, unconnected with service in a militia, and to use that arm for traditionally lawful purposes such as self-defense within the home. Just 2 years later, in 2010, the court extended this right to the states through the 14th Amendment in McDonald v. City of Chicago. This ruling ensured that the Second Amendment rights recognized in Heller applied not just to federal enclaves, but to the entire nation. These cases underscore the evolving interpretation of the Second Amendment and its crucial role in American legal and cultural landscapes. They highlight the ongoing debate over the balance between individual rights and public safety, a debate that continues to shape the contours of American society today. As we reflect on these decisions, it's essential to understand their broader implications and the ways they influence current and future legal battles over gun control and individual freedoms. In the case of New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin, the Supreme Court's decision marked a significant moment in the interpretation of the Second Amendment. This ruling emphasized the right to carry firearms outside the home for self-defense, challenging many existing state regulations. The implications of this decision continue to influence ongoing debates and legal battles across the country. Interpreting the Second Amendment in modern English can be quite enlightening. Essentially, it states that a well-regulated militia is necessary for the security of a free state, and therefore, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This translation helps us understand the balance between collective security and individual rights, which remains a cornerstone of the ongoing discussions about gun control and personal freedom. The Second Amendment has always been a topic of intense debate. From its inception to the present day, differing interpretations have sparked discussions on the balance between public safety and individual freedoms. This legacy of debate reflects the evolving nature of our society and the enduring importance of constitutional rights. It's a conversation that continues to shape our laws, our communities, and our national identity. In conclusion, the Second Amendment is more than just a legal provision. It is a reflection of the values and conflicts that have shaped American history. Understanding its origins, its interpretations, and its impact on modern society is crucial for anyone engaged in the ongoing dialogue about rights and responsibilities. As we move forward, the discussions around the Second Amendment will undoubtedly continue to evolve, reflecting the dynamic nature of our legal and cultural landscape.